Attention, due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey everybody, this is your host Tim.
And this is Brian.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Civil Gore podcast.
Yeah, and this is, I guess you could say, one of a very special episode because we're kind of kicking off a September thing we're doing, and also doing our Tobe Hooper remembrance / retrospective episode. So this should be a fun one because it's we're gonna honor a fantastic contributor to the world of horror, and also who tragically passed away, but also one who is still providing great content today. So I think it's a perfect mix.
Right, yeah, we had planned a Stephen King September before Tobe Hooper's passing, and Brian had the brilliant idea of doing Salem's Lot as our first pick, as a way to honor him, because of course he directed that movie. And we also have a lot of other fun stuff this show, because our dismemberment this week is going to break your wallet.
Yeah,
it's huge.
And even our first chop, I swear, I was just selling this to Tim before we started. I'm like, it seems like each week more and more stuff gets added to our first chop, to where we were joking, we're like, okay, this is like the whole show now. We don't even need a movie, but we will not do that to you.
We're getting to Halloween season, so you're starting to see the Blu-ray releases really ramp up in terms of horror.
Right.
I've noticed a week or two out from here, we got another like massive flood of horror titles coming. So that'll be fun to go over those. Not fun for my bank account, but
no, and plus, if you throw in all the haunts that we like to go to in October, it's definitely a big wallet draining month.
Yeah,
for us.
So without further ado, let's get right to our first chop. So I stumbled across a cool little podcast this week, and I believe I found it on the Shockwaves message board in the Shockwaves Facebook group. But it's called My Neighbors Are Dead. And this is a comedy / horror podcast for basically made directly for horror fans. And the premise is the host, Adam Peacock, interviews a neighbor or townsperson where some massacre or big event from a horror movie took place. So let me give you an example. In one episode, he interviews 2 camp counselors that work at the Christian camp on the other side of Crystal Lake. And there's another episode where he interviews a neighbor of the guy, the vampire from Fright Night. There's one where he interviews Reagan's school teacher from The Exorcist. So what's really funny about this podcast, and they're short, they're like 15, 20 minutes each, so you can blow through them. But they do it all in an improv style. So it doesn't sound scripted at all. It sounds pretty authentic.
Yeah, I listened to one. I listened to the first one, the Halloween one, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, and obviously, like anything improv, it's going to be hit or miss. But when it hits, it's really, really funny. So I definitely recommend that one. I'm about a third of the way through the backlog now. I think they have over 20 episodes already.
Yeah, you could kind of tell. Like, there was a couple of ones where, like, you could tell, since they were totally ad-libbing it, that maybe one of the people were a little off, but it worked so well anyway because it seemed natural. So it definitely worked regardless. Even if the ones like Tim said, there was a miss, it still worked as a whole because it was the total thing was improv. And I think for the Michael Myers one, the actress in there was part of an improv group. So I think they pulled her from an improv group. So she was pretty. I could have sworn I've heard her voice before, or she just may have that voice, that one of those voices that sound great, like someone that can kind of be versatile like that. But it was she was pretty funny like that one. So I like that one. So yeah, I definitely recommend that with Tim.
The other thing I started this week was my Halloween decorations. I got in the Halloween spirit early this year, and which to some people this is late, but
I know, right?
But this year it was early for me, and I decided to create some yard decorations because I do not have the money to go spend $200 on animatronics. As much as I like those, we went to Spirit Halloween over the weekend. They had some really awesome ones, but I am making some ghost for the front yard. I did this one year with some tomato cages, and it worked out pretty well. But this year I wanted to up the ante because the ones I had made before were about 3 feet tall, so they were little tiny things and they were lit up, but they were kind of too cutesy. And I kind of want to go for something a little more sinister this year. So what I did is I took 2 tomato cages, one on the bottom as a base, and then I got another one inverted, stuck into that one. So almost like, imagine like an hourglass shape.
Ah, okay.
Then I took 2 yardsticks and crossed them and taped them in there so that they are like arms, or like a brace for arms sticking out. And then I've got a pole sticking up, and then I've got a styrofoam mannequin head stuck there. So basically, once you cover this thing with a sheet, you've got what looks like a person, and these things are about 5 feet tall, so they're pretty. Look, it could pass off as a real person under a sheet, and the mannequin head makes it actually look like there's a real person under there. So it actually is a really, really cool effect. And once I get them finished, I'll obviously post some pictures to our Instagram page.
Yeah, I want to see those.
Yeah, I'm gonna light them up, and then I'm considering maybe instead of doing like a full sheeted ghost, I may try to do some kind of like hooded robe type thing. That way I can light the eyes up. I could spray paint the heads black and then kind of like light the eyes up. But I don't know. I'm still experimenting with it. So I still got a month. I've set a goal for myself of I have to have them done by October 1st because that's when all the decorations are going in the yard. So
right, and this can't be a backlog project. This has to be a front log.
No, yeah, this has to be on the front log. So
yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. The next thing up on our list was the finale of the third season, so to speak, or the return of Twin Peaks, and which obviously Tim's not caught up, and some of you may not have gotten caught up yet, so I'm not going to really go into too much other than I will say I was satisfied with the ending. I think some will be, some won't be. I think it depends on your, I guess it's the way you look at Twin Peaks in general. Like if you look at something like, I mean, if people have been following along, there's 1,000 questions and probably will be impossible to answer them all. Well, they don't answer many, so if you just be prepared for not complete wrap up. But then again, it's David Lynch, so do you really expect him to wrap up everything? No. So, but I think so. I think other than that, that's all I'll say. I'll leave it there. Is that as a series as a whole, I still think it was phenomenal. I'm going to rewatch it again anyway, just to see it in a kind of like a binge session now that I don't have to wait a week in between them. So, but yeah, so I think you're going to probably, especially if you start looking at social media, I think some people, like, it's one of those things where it's going to be divided. Some people be happy, some people won't be. Well, to me, I like when it's like that because it sparks discussion,
Do you foresee them doing another run?
Well, like I think I had mentioned last week, they had said that nothing was announced yet. There is a book entitled Twin Peaks: The Final Dossier by Mark Frost. It's coming out October 31st. So I think I will reserve the answer to that once I read that because, Twin Peaks was kind of early on, from the original series. They spawned those almost like expanded universe type of things where they had Laura Palmer's diary, Agent Cooper's book, his audio tape. They had some other Twin Peaks books. There's a lot of books about Twin Peaks, so they could actually continue the story and kind of branch out on the mythology through other mediums. So they may just choose to do that. I guess it all depends on Showtime and if David Lynch feels he still wants to tell the story in that way. So my gut right now says no. In the immediate future, maybe years down the road, David Lynch is he's one of those guys that he does his own thing, as we know, and doesn't really follow too many rules with his movies. So, but yeah, so right now I'd have to say don't expect it anytime soon.
Speaking of Mark Frost, he wrote one of my favorite books of all time, which is called The List of Seven.
Oh, see, so his book is Twin Peaks will probably be really good because I mean essentially that's fiction also, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I mean so I'm interested to see that because they definitely left a lot of loose ends, and I'm wondering if the book will explore that or tie anything up or just kind of add more mystery, which I would probably be expecting that even more. I think they'll give you a couple of freebies and tie some stuff up, but I don't think it'll completely go into it. I'll just say I think the ending was satisfying to me, at least. But we'll see what everyone thinks. I'd be interested to see. I'm interested. I can't wait till you catch up.
Yeah, it's next on the list for sure.
Yeah, and I know our friend Tom just started the revival series, so I'm interested to see where he gets up. I know he's watched the first couple episodes, and he seemed to be excited about it. Tom, of course, the voice you hear at the beginning of every Civil Gore episode. I meant to actually reach out to him to see where he is right now and find out how he's enjoying it. But it seemed like he liked the first 2 episodes. So, but the next thing we'll go over. This was something my brother Adam had. He was. I remember we were sitting there. He was over this weekend, and he's like, "Wow, my God, did you see this thing about this guy and he's documenting his haunted apartment?" And I'm like, "No, what is it?" So apparently, and I sent it to Tim, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. There's this guy, Adam Ellis. I guess he's a cartoonist, right? He was a cartoonist.
Yeah, cartoonist.
Yeah, so he, I guess, started to have this weird haunted apartment stories going on, and he decided
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. We'll say allegedly. Although, I mean, he's saying he has some videos and he has some proof there that he does, but it's like Tim said, well, he is an author, so we don't know. But I'll tell you, if it's whatever this is he's a genius, because this would make a fantastic horror movie.
It's really creepy.
It's really creepy. Yeah, you can look at his name is Adam Ellis. It's at Adam Ellis. I think on Twitter. I'm not sure. I'll put him in the rundown. We'll put him in for sure. And I think I might have linked. If not, I'll link it. I'll retweet one of his Storify or whatever they call it, his link of it. But basically, long story short, it's basically he started to have this vision, I guess his dream, where he had a sleep paralysis dream where there's this little like boy with kind of a dented in head sitting at the edge of his bed in a rocking chair. And yeah, I mean, which is creepy enough. And then he sketched this thing, which looks super creepy. And then he had a dream apparently that some woman says, "Oh, you've met Dear David, haven't you?" And and I guess in his dream he's like, "Who?" And she explains it. So she said, "Yeah, it's Dear David. You can talk to him, but you have to call him Dear David, and you're allowed to ask him 2 questions. If you ask him 3, he'll kill you." So yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of comical, but so this guy apparently I guess in one of his dreams he decides to ask him questions and realize he did ask him a 3rd, and then after that, like, weird stuff started happening. Where every night at midnight, his cats go to the door and stare at it as there's something on the other side. He has a video, one of those motion sensor cameras, where this rocking chair started to rock by itself.
I will have to say about the cat thing.
Yeah.
I could take a video of my cat staring at a door like that anytime you wanted me to.
Right, yeah.
As a cat owner, they do that all the time.
Right,
anyway.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely not the stealth. But there is the one where one picture is super creepy where he shows a picture of a door, and you can kind of make out like a head and 2 eyes, and if you look, but it could be that whole power suggestion thing, and you could see anything you want if they lead you enough into it. But either way, it is truly entertaining to say the least.
I'm skeptical of stuff like that, but I will have to say this is a very creepy story, and the whole Twitter medium with the way he's telling it is really cool.
Yeah,
it's worth checking out. It's definitely entertaining.
Yeah, whether it's the biggest hoax of all time, or this guy's just having some fun, or he's writing a horror movie and he wants to see how it's going to play out. So he pretends it's real. Either way, you will not be disappointed in terms of entertainment value. So definitely check that out. We'll send a link. We'll tweet it out or something. We'll give you guys the link so you can go check it out yourself, because it's definitely interesting. I guess the next thing is, as you know, as of when this episode drops, it will be the official release date of It. I got my tickets this weekend for Julie and I. We're going to actually see the early show on 7 o'clock on Thursday, the preview night. So I'm super excited because I can't wait to do that. And I think, Tim, you're seeing it Friday?
Still up in the air. It depends on whether Olivia will let me go see it by myself.
Oh, okay.
If she's okay with that, then I'm going to see it Thursday night.
Oh, okay.
If she's not, if she wants me to wait for her, then it'll probably be Saturday or Sunday.
Oh, okay. So either way, I think we're gonna, we'll probably, our plan is for our next episode to be featuring that as
I'll definitely see it before then.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and speaking of it, we had we'll link it out. There's a funny video from the Losers Club, which are the kids from it, that they posted on. Was that through IGN?
Yeah, it was IGN. Yeah, our good friend Steve Cohn sent me the link. It was from IGN, I believe. So I don't know if they created the video or they just they were the first to.
That's how we saw it.
Yeah, we saw it from IGN. So.
It's a funny little video they made talking about if you're scared to go see our movie, here's some helpful hints on how to get through it, and it's got a few little brief clips and stuff from Pennywise and stuff that's worth checking out, and it's pretty funny. Yeah, it's just brilliant marketing though. It's funny. It really is good. Speaking of the marketing, I honestly can't remember a horror movie this hyped in a long time. No, I can't either. Even the ones like The Conjuring, which were getting a lot of press. Nothing, I don't remember anything, you're right, marketed quite like this, though. I was racking my brain trying to think of an actual horror movie that was this marketed. And I can't think of one. Because this has been months. It's not like this thing just started cranking up, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Right. We've been getting teasers and marketing stuff since probably the spring at least. Right. And I think since it was announced, it had such anticipation. Everyone was excited for it because, it was such a beloved book, and even the miniseries had this quality that so many people just love. And so I think it's once they announced it, and they knew it was going to be a big screen adaptation, it was everyone was all in right off the bat. So they had an easy job to market, but they also could have totally bombed it if they marketed it poorly. I think whoever Tower. Yeah, exactly. I think whoever was in charge of the marketing for this should win some kind of award because they did it so perfectly, and they just gave you just enough hype, just enough variety of types of marketing that I just all I know is I can't believe. I mean, this is probably right now the second film I'm excited for the most this year. Obviously, being Last Jedi #1. Fortunately, it sounds like the hype or the movie is living up to the hype, at least on the early reviews. Yeah, I haven't heard one negative comment yet. So yeah. Oh man, I can't wait. Yeah, it should be fun. Well, speaking of movies, this one's coming out in January. We got the trailer for Insidious: The Last Key, and I have to give them credit for not naming it Insidious 4. Right. That was probably a good move on their part to avoid that. I think there's a stigma attached to a sequel when they start getting up into those higher numbers. Right, yeah. Past 3. So this one sounds like it's going to focus on the parapsychologist lady a little more. Yeah, and from some of the scenes in it, and it's obviously it's James Wan, does a brilliant job with creepy, and there were some creepy scenes in this trailer. Yeah. Now here's something I want to ask you, Brian. After I was watching the trailer, and I was sitting there, and as creepy as it was, and as scary as it was, there was part of me that was a little numb to it all, because I've seen all the Conjurings, I've seen Annabelle, I've seen Annabelle Creation, I've seen Insidious, I've seen all these similar type movies. Are we getting diminishing returns where this type of haunted house movie is starting to, I don't want to say wear out its welcome, but we're starting to become a little desensitized to it? Yeah. You could be right. I mean, the thing is, and here's it's funny because there's. So I haven't seen all of the ones. I haven't seen. I think I've seen Insidious 1 and 2. But I haven't seen 3 yet. I haven't seen the Annabelles. Obviously, I'm a little behind in that. But I've seen all the trailers for these. And the funny thing is, through this trailer had the same style trailer that all of those have, where at the end there's this moment of build up to creepiness, and then the jump scare that they kind of show right in the trailer. But I didn't jump because
I saw it coming. Yeah, I like so that you do have a good point there, because it's like you know the guy's formula now, and so yeah, I mean, granted, as extremely popular they are, at some point they're gonna have to change it up, or people are gonna be like, no,
Yeah. Well, I mean, even Annabelle Creation, as much as I enjoyed that movie, and I really did, as you heard when I reviewed it, I can't say that it really quote unquote scared me as for terms of like startled me a whole lot, because like you said, I saw most of the jump scares coming. So yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely going to go see this one because I'm a big fan of the series, and it looks great. And of course, with any movie like this, each sequel is going to try to outdo the previous ones.
Right.
So I'm sure this thing is just packed full of scares. So I'll give it a shot, but I think we're getting to the point where they're running the risk of oversaturating the genre with these Insidious like haunted house movies.
Right. And guy, listen, I mean, James Wan, no offense, obviously you're a brilliant filmmaker with and behind some of the greatest horror movies right now, but if right out there Tim is telling you that the jump scares are not working on him, you got to change it up. This is Mr. Jump Scare here.
Oh, maybe I'm finally growing up.
Maybe we'll have to test it. We'll have to see. I'll have to see Tim. Tim and I will get to experience some haunts together, this coming fall. So we'll I'll report back to see if Tim's jump scare, his reflex is still alive and well. So then I know sorry. I mean, we prepared you, but yeah, this first chop still goes on. I get it. It's 2 more items though. I'll try and be quick. One of these things I watched on Shudder was one of the. I don't know if it's a Shudder exclusive or whatnot, but something I popped up that I triggered it to have me watch it. So it's called Sleep Tight. It's actually a Spanish psychological thriller. So it's in Spanish with subtitles, and it stars Luis Tosar and Marta Itrura. Which happen to be married in real life, which is kind of funny because they've done, I think, a couple of movies together. And this guy, Luis Tosar, he's been in some other stuff. You'll recognize him if you see it. But it's a super creepy movie, and I'll warn you now, if anyone's had experience or remotely experienced or knows someone that has that had to deal with a stalker, this is probably not the movie you want to watch with them, because it gets, I mean, it's one of those really psychological, like, punches to the face. It's basically this Luis Tosar plays this concierge of a building who you kind of discover that he doesn't know how to be happy, and it seems like the only way he can get any kind of joy is to make other people miserable. So he just goes out of his way to do really like creepy things, and some downright mean. I'm not going to go into any details, but basically the main focus he does is he focuses on this woman in his building that he has a thing for, and you find out early on, right off the bat, that he has some obsession with her, and he basically every night goes into her apartment because he has the key, and he literally, before she gets home, lays under her bed, waits till she goes to sleep, gets up, chloroforms her so she's completely knocked out, and then gets into bed with her. But, but it goes, that's just the basis. That is the bare minimum of what he does. He eventually just, like, messes with her because, and he's all this time going over to his mother, who looks like she's in some kind of hospice, and he's kind of telling her that he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll wipe that smile off her face. And this poor mother, you could see, is in just true agony. She's like on her deathbed, essentially. And she's like basically can't do anything about her son, like where she can witness him like just spiraling down into this horrible thing. But I mean, I'm not even gonna go into anything else. Just it's definitely so watchable because you can't believe what the lengths this guy goes to torture this poor woman. But it's really like really like I said, if you anything like you have any relation to someone who has experienced a stalker, this is like almost like too real probably for them to deal with. It's so creepy. But I definitely would think if you like those psychological thrillers like that, I would definitely check this one out because this is a fantastic one in terms of that.
Cool. Yeah, I think I've heard of that one. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
Yeah, it's a doozy. So this one, and it's so funny. Some people on Shudder are like, "Why is this horror?" And other people are on there defending it and say, "Well, psychological horror is just as much horror as like someone coming out, like a ghost coming out." And I agree, because this is like that real type of horror. So yeah, this one was really well done. But and the next thing I'll talk about, this is not exactly horror, but it's kind of they describe it as a sci-fi crime thriller. But I'm gonna include it anyway because we watched it this weekend and it was really pretty good. It's called What Happened to Monday. It's a Netflix original. It stars Numi. They auto-corrected it to Naomi. Numi Rapace, obviously from the Dragon Tattoo, the original ones. Alien Covenant, Prometheus, Willem Dafoe and Glenn Close, and it basically takes place in the future where, due to overpopulation, they make a law that everyone's only allowed one child. So basically, Willem Dafoe, you find out in the beginning, is his daughter gives birth to septuplets. So 7 kids. And he basically finds a doctor that'll deliver them in secret, and he kind of takes them into hiding. And as they're growing up, he basically names each one for one day of the week. So there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so each day, whichever day it is, that's the person that takes on the main persona of whatever, Karen something in the movie. So they're all, and they all have different personalities. So it's really interesting, because they all, so he's got them in his, kind of like this bunker set up where, they're in this apartment, and, so they all dress up the same person. There's one person basically has a job, but as they're all older, I guess Willem Dafoe is long gone. Monday goes missing one day. She just kind of blips off their radar, and so basically the other ones try and look for her, and that's all I'll go into with it because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's just really like a really good, like, kind of a sci-fi thriller that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, let's get into our dismemberment because this one's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so huge week for horror Blu-ray releases. These are the Blu-ray releases for September 12th. And the first one up, I was a little disappointed because I had started watching this one on Shudder, I believe. And when I went back to finish it, it was gone.
Oh, they finally took the Manitou off, by the way.
Yeah, when I looked on Amazon Prime, it said watch through a Shudder subscription. But when I go straight to Shudder, I can't find it anymore. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if they actually pulled it or because of the Blu-ray coming out or
maybe
some other reason. But anyway, this is Don't Torture a Duckling from 1972. This is the Lucio Fulci classic. Some people will say it's his masterpiece. And this is an Arrow release that looks really, really good. It's got a brand new audio commentary, featurette, some interviews. This is one I'd really like to pick up at some point because Arrow does some really great releases just like Scream Factory does. So I'm always looking forward to their releases as well.
They used to make good roller coasters too.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not the same Arrow, but
no. That was a little coaster boy humor for you there.
Yeah. For our coaster/horror listeners.
Now, this one's interesting and one I would probably been all over had I not already gotten the nice Universal monster sets that have already come out.
Right.
But Best Buy is doing a collection of Universal Classic Monsters steelbooks, and they're releasing all on the same day. So get ready. The Wolfman, The Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, Frankenstein, and Dracula. Now, I already have all these, or most of these, in other sets, so I'm not going to bother with these steelbooks. But that's pretty cool if you just want those collector editions of those movies.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the steelbook thing. I think we mentioned it once before. Where it's like, yeah, it's a neat gimmick and everything, but it really doesn't fit in our collection. Even though I tend to get them when they're like, because sometimes Best Buys also include like another little extra thing on it. So it's like sometimes I get suckered into getting these steelbooks, but not because I think the steelbook itself is kind of cool. It's just,
Yeah.
But these titles definitely are worth it if you don't have them.
Yep. Next up is one that I talked about before. It Comes at Night from
right,
2017.
Yeah, that's the one you said was okay, right?
Yeah, that's the one I just really didn't care for. This is a Lionsgate release. I don't think there's much on it other than a featurette. But at least now you can decide for yourself whether this is one you like or not. I'm not alone in my opinion. A lot of people thought this. One guy said a great little comment. He said this movie should have come out either 10 years earlier or 10 years later. I don't know which. So I was like, that's pretty much spot on. It's one of those post-apocalyptic movies that just went nowhere, and I think it was badly marketed as something that it wasn't, which also didn't help my opinion of it. So, so rent it and see for yourself, or go out and buy it. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I'm easy. It's your money.
Knowing me, I'll probably end up buying it just because I never learn. Okay.
The next one up is one that I probably should pick up at some point because I've only got the Scream series on DVD. Okay. They're re-releasing the Scream 1 through 4 collection.
See, I have all 4 of the singles versions of that. There's nothing different, right?
I forgot to check that to see if there was, because I'm the same way. I've got all the singles.
Yeah.
So this one's not high on the list to replace those because I don't typically watch the sequels much anyway. But
yeah,
I should pick it up at some point, I guess, just to be legit.
Well, I mean, I have the singles on Blu-ray, so I don't need to upgrade again, especially if this is the same thing. I mean, I'll
mine
look
are all
into it.
DVD, so I would have at least have a reason to upgrade.
Yeah. No, you should. If it's one of those things where it's like $24 for like all 4, definitely worth picking up.
Picking it up. On the price.
Yeah, I could see that being that price point. I can't see that being that expensive.
The next one up sounds very interesting, and it's by a company called Mondo Macabro.
Which sounds great already.
I just love that.
That's already a winner,
but,
just with that name.
When I first saw the title of this movie, I figured it was something from the 60s or 70s, but it's actually from 1991. It's called Spider.
Spider Baby.
Here we go with our IMDb summary. So, a teenage girl is asked to pose as the Virgin Mary for an artist, but soon finds herself being pursued by strange figures and startling visions.
Wait, how is she pursued by a vision?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't remember if I got this from IMDb or if I made this one up. This one may be the one I made up.
Oh.
There was one of these I was looking at the description and I was trying not to copy it verbatim, so I just made one up. So that may have been my fault.
Well, either way, it's funny. It fits in the theme of the way they usually are on there. So. Yeah. Well done.
This one has a new 4K restoration, interviews, and archival footage. So I don't know anything about this movie, but the description sounded really fascinating. So I might have to check this one out.
Yeah, and plus anything called Mondo Macabro, that's worth a look right there.
The next one is a double feature, and it's interesting in that the double feature is actually a documentary of the making of the film and then the film itself.
Yeah, this was actually this was my basic runner-up for pick of the week, just because it sounded like such a cool set.
Yeah, it's a neat premise. So the documentary is called The Creep Behind the Camera, and that was produced in 2014. But the movie itself is called The Creeping Terror, which came out in 1964. This is a Synapse release, and it was at the time was hailed as one of the worst movies ever made. So they gave it a new 2K scan, commentaries, featurettes. And you know what? I love the idea because I'm not above watching bad movies.
Oh, me either. Hey, how many have we watched already?
Yeah, but I love that some of these bad movies get kind of this cult following, and then they come out and do these featurettes and commentaries and stuff. I mean, it's so entertaining. I love the fact that they're giving that kind of love to some of these really bad movies, right? In a way.
And in a trivia too, how you said it was one of the worst movies ever made. That it held that title up until Paul Blart 2. So
we had to get Paul Blart in there somewhere. This episode.
You know it. It used to be the Manitou, then it was Dulcet Tones. Now it's Paul Blart 2.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there'll be something else next time.
Yeah. Don't worry, we won't stick with it that long. Just wait till Mervo starts working his name into everything.
Oh my gosh. Well, the next one, the summary really made me laugh. It's called The Hatred from 2017. This is a Lionsgate release. 4 young women travel to their college professor's new country home for a weekend getaway, only to discover that the house has a malevolent past.
I have a feeling the professor has a malevolent past. That's just... There's something just... that's just wrong. What's good?
The first time I was like, why are 4 young women traveling to their professor's house in the country for the weekend?
Yeah, it's just this like, that's got creep all over it before you even get to the malevolence.
So I don't know anything about that one, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And it's like it's actually recent. Wow, 2017.
Yeah, it was this year. So
yeah, okay.
Then of course we have the much maligned The Mummy from
Yeah.
2017. This is the Tom Cruise version.
I want to see it. I'm still excited to see it.
I do want to see it.
It
was
was out too fast in the theater. I never got a chance to see it, and I was kind of disappointed. I had one of those like movie cash things to go see it and everything, and I just never got around to seeing it. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing that.
As I've said before, I have never seen a Tom Cruise movie that I didn't enjoy at some level.
Right. So there you go.
So will this be the first to break that pattern? I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think it will. Okay, you'll have to enjoy some of it. I think you'll enjoy something out of it. I don't know what, but we'll see.
But one good thing is it's coming with a pretty good packed release. It's got deleted and extended scenes, featurettes, and an audio commentary. So that's pretty good, because a lot of times these first run releases, they'll just throw out a bare bones disc.
Especially when they don't do well in the theater.
So that's good that at least the disc is getting some love. It might be worth picking up. This next one, it was not until after I had read the summary that I was like, oh my God, I've seen this movie. And I actually believe I saw it back in 91. The Resurrected, 1991. This is a Scream Factory release. Charles Dexter Ward's wife enlists the help of a private detective to find out what her husband is up to in a remote cabin owned by his family for centuries.
That's another remote cabin. First a country home, now a remote cabin.
Well, do you recognize the name Charles Dexter Ward?
It sounds familiar.
That is a character from an H.P. Lovecraft story.
Oh, okay.
So this was an actual Lovecraft movie.
Really? Okay.
Which there's not many of those, fewer still, that are actually well made. Now, of course, Reanimator was loosely based on Lovecraft, but
right, yeah.
Yeah, this one I actually remember seeing. Now, I can't quite remember if it was any good. I kind of think it was decent.
I want to say I remember the artwork for it on the box. Is it like that face?
I think it's that's what's coming to mind for me as well. I don't know without looking it up, but I kind of want to grab this one because I have not seen this movie in so long. I think it'd be really fun to go back and see it again. And like I said, it's got a new 2K remaster, new interviews, deleted extended scenes. So it's got a good feature set too. So
that's good.
That one was almost my pick of the week.
Yeah, I might have to, if that's like one of those ones that come out and it's like probably like $14.99 or something. I could see myself picking that one up too.
Yep. The last one before we get to our respective picks of the week was The Suspicious Death of a Minor. Gotta love those titles.
Yeah. Now it's let's just clear it. It's minor, like as in young person, not as a guy with a hat and a lamp on his head.
Yeah.
Let's just clear it out.
Yeah. Oh,
because there's been movies about miners getting killed.
no, it's not
My
like
Bloody
a coal
Valentine.
miner. No.
Yeah, okay.
The coal miner slaughter.
Yeah,
number 36.
There you go. Yep, there you go. New Kickstarter.
Kickstarter, the coal miner slaughter.
Yeah.
Love it. I knew we'd come up with one.
Would it star Loretta Lynn Shea in the title role?
Well, you know what you could have it star Sissy Spacek, but she's like goes all Carrie on the miners and causes cave-ins and stuff.
That's true
because they pick on her.
Yeah, and then and at the end though, she'll they'll trick her and they'll drop like soot all over her prom dress, instead of. Yeah,
she freaks out, starts collapsing the cave.
Yeah.
Oh my god! All right. Where were we? The suspicious death of a minor, 1975 Arrow release. Another good Arrow release.
Oh.
Sergio Martino, a young prostitute, is found brutally killed and is up to Detective Jeremy. Jeremy.
The way it's written on my rundown is Jeremy. So,
hang on. Let me back up and read this exactly as it was written.
Okay.
A young prostitute is found brutally killed and is up to Detective Jeremy the investigation of the case. As the search progresses, he uncovers a girls' trafficking ring with connections to powerful people. So
yeah, that one's a head scratcher.
I think you have to speak it in an Italian accent to make the sentence parse correctly.
Yeah, I would do it, but I don't want to offend anybody.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I could totally. I mean, we already probably got in trouble for that Italian rapper joke we did. I don't want to go down this road again because. Just imagine us doing it. How's that?
Oh my god, yeah, just you could picture it.
Yeah.
2K restoration, new commentary, interviews. So got some good features on there if you want some a little Italian horror in your life.
Oh god, can you imagine the commentary if it's by the person that wrote this?
Oh my gosh, let's hope not.
Yeah.
Now we get to my pick of the week. Pick of the week is Phenomena from 1985. This is a Synapse release. Dario Argento directing. The great Jennifer Connelly, who I used to have a major crush on when she was in Labyrinth.
Oh yeah.
Now I was little too, so don't get weirded
yeah,
out.
No,
like,
we were all we were young. I mean, she was like, I think she was. Well, when did Labyrinth come out? 84.
Yeah, so I was like 10 years old. So
what was she then? She must have been like.
She was a little older. She had to have been a little older.
Yeah, in 84 I was 12. So yeah, so we're okay.
So, yeah, and then also Donald Pleasance.
Right there you go.
Donald Pleasance. So and this one has 3 different cuts of the movie, 2 sound mix options, which I don't quite know, but that's probably I don't know if they had like the original.
Yeah, sometimes they have it mono. They throw those in, like the mono versions of it.
It's got commentaries, documentaries, interviews. This one sounds like a really packed disc for a really cool movie. So that's why I gave it my pick of the week. This is the one I'm picking up this week.
Yeah, no, I might be. I think I want to get it too. Now, my pick of the week is the next one. It's kind of funny compared to all the other ones that we talked about, and you know, in terms of really true horror. But I picked this for purely nostalgia, which is Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. Just because, you know, for a couple of things. One, I love all the Universal classic monsters, number one. But two is, you know, I used to always watch the Abbott and Costello movies on Sundays with my dad, and I just had so much fun with those. So I think I already own this on DVD somewhere, but you know, it's like, so I'd like to start picking them up if they, you know, if the Abbott and Costello movies start coming out on Blu-ray. I definitely want to start, you know, upping my collection on those. So that's why I kind of made that one pick of the week.
Now, I will say this movie's included in the Mummy collection.
Oh, so I already have it then, actually.
Yeah, so you probably already have it. If you picked up the Universal Mummy set.
Right. Okay,
it's
I did.
actually in there.
Okay, never mind then.
So don't double dip on it.
No, I won't. Okay, good.
But if you don't have that set, that's a great film to pick up for sure.
Okay, so it's a pick of the week for you, but I don't need to pick it up. I can go pick up Phenomena. Yeah. I almost said Philomena, like that other movie with like Judi Dench or something.
I kept almost saying that as well, or Phenomenon. I don't know.
Yeah, but when I saw it, I was like, "Why is Tim Pitt Philomena? That's not a horror movie. Why? Or is it like it's Dame Judi Dench? Right? Is she in that?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one is Dame Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, Dame Jennifer Connelly. So. Oh boy. Okay, theatrical releases September 8th. Do I even need to say it?
I don't know. Is there anything coming out? I don't know.
Say it. See what I did there?
I did. Yeah, very good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is coming out if you didn't realize already.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it enough.
So we'll move on from that one. We've already beat that dead horse. But there's another one coming out in limited release, and that's called The Limehouse Golem.
Is what's his face? Andy Serkis in this at all? My precious.
He's drinking Corona. It's like,
yeah, I know.
Oh, he's just Golem sitting around drinking Coronas.
You think he's sitting there like, my Corona? I don't know why I made him the Crypt Keeper. There, I guess.
The Golem is now the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, now he's the Crypt Keeper. Okay, well, all right. My voice range is limited. What can I say?
But this one actually looks really cool. It's a series of murders has shaken the community to the point where people believe that only a legendary creature from dark times, the mythical so-called Golem, or Golem, as people like to pronounce it, Golem, must be responsible. And this one is a period piece, and it stars Olivia Cooke from Bates Motel.
Oh.
I really like her.
And Bill Nye the Science Guy, apparently, right?
Yeah, Bill Nye. I don't know how to pronounce it. Nye.
Couldn't resist that joke, sorry.
I really liked her in Bates Motel, and she was also in Ouija, so the original Ouija. So she's got to where she's doing a lot of horror type stuff.
Well, that's good. Then she's got like the right horror credit. Now, I wonder if this kid, they decided to intentionally release it this week for the people that are like, they're like, I'll call the horror GP, where they're like, oh, I heard there's this really good horror movie coming out. oh, this one must be it. And they wander in there instead of seeing it. So I don't know.
About 2 for the Limehouse Golem. I can't even say that with a straight face. I don't know. How did you get that?
I wouldn't even say it. I just 2 for that one. And point.
Or just get it online and pick your tickets up at the kiosk.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you just order it online. just kind of, and then like kind of walk in, in honor of Abbott and Costello being released, we could do that thing they used to do to sneak into things where they'd walk in backwards so it looked like they're coming out. You just kind of walk backwards into the theater and no one will know. You'll be in there by yourself anyway, so it's not like anyone's going to see you. So.
Yeah, or after you go see it, you just sneak into the theater across the hall where they're showing the Limehouse Golem.
Right. Just smell the citrus. You'll know where to go.
Okay, so that's it. So hopefully you got your wallets ready for that week. So let's move on to our movie. But before we do, Brian had a little Tobe Hooper retrospective written up here so we could kind of talk about some of the films he did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, some of his big ones. You got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2, Eaten Alive, which, of course, we've done on... So if you think about it, Civil Gore, we've done a lot. Give a lot of attention to him, which was good. We touched on a bunch of his movies.
You know what's funny, Brian? Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive, which I believe was our third episode.
Third, yeah.
Is still to this day one of our least downloaded episodes.
Really? I wonder if people don't realize realize what it was. I
don't know why. That people avoid that one like the plague.
Maybe everyone will go back to it now. It'll be one of those like retro resurgences.
I thought it was a good episode, but
yeah, it was. I mean, it's funny. I mean, maybe because it was back to back with the Manitou, and they want to, because it was kind of movies where it was one of those almost like so bad it's good kind of a.
And I will say, if anybody's listening to this as their first time and go back to our older episodes, some of them are pretty rough.
Yeah,
we really did not know what we were doing, and not that to say that we know what we're doing now, because we don't. But they were quite a bit different in terms of. I mean, we've improved in editing, we've improved sound, we've improved just banter or whatever.
Yeah, I think we just met. Back then we were still playing around with the format, so it's like, I mean, the first episode. I mean, I'm afraid to even go back to ever listen to it because
I don't even want to listen. I haven't gone back
because basically we'll let you in on a little secret. We basically forgot that you could edit, so we kind of almost did like an entirely live show and let it go. So. Yeah, and then we realized, like, pretty embarrassingly, we're like, you know what? Why didn't we edit that out? Why didn't we edit it? But obviously, I'm glad you guys are, if you stuck in. The good news is most people discover podcasts. They discover it from whatever episode is current and then go back to listen to it. So hopefully, you catch on one of the later episodes. But I will say this. If you want to go back to one early one that I think is one of our definitely our premiere episodes, it's got to be the Manitou one. That was fun.
Yeah, the Manitou is definitely one of our best episodes, even though it was so early on.
Yeah, because that movie was so good to cover. But
yeah.
But anyway,
sorry to interrupt. So we
we don't. Yeah. So Eaten Alive, he did. He actually did some episodes of some notable horror anthology shows. He did an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, Tales from the Crypt, a couple episodes of Masters of Horror, and an episode of Amazing Stories. So that's a pretty good.
He was very active in TV, which was cool.
Yeah, and I think he did a couple of other ones. The ones that I didn't mention, but there's a couple of other ones. I think he did a couple of series where he started them. I think did maybe one of the premiere episodes. I'm not sure. I'm sure anyone out there they know the answer to that. I just know he did a couple of episodes of some other lesser known TV shows that I know. He did Life Force, the Funhouse, which of course is one I'd love to cover because that was actually really good.
We're definitely going to cover that one. That's one of my favorite 80s horror movies of all time.
Yeah, that might be something good for October. That seems like a good October Halloween month movie. So, and then Poltergeist, and I put maybe because obviously there's some speculation and things that actually come to light even more recently, I think.
Yeah, recently.
About if he actually directed it or just got the credit, and Spielberg did a lot of it. So but we had to mention it, obviously, but that's why I put a little maybe next to it. He did Body Bags, The Mangler, Crocodile, which I guess he must have a thing with those kind of reptiles. And his latest he did was, I don't know, is it just Jinn without the silent, I assume, right?
Yeah.
And that was as recent as 2013, so it's not like he's ever disappeared from the horror limelight. But I mean, there's no way you can discuss horror and not come up. I mean, he's probably did one of the most influential horror movies, ever, and did some other ones that just people love. So
yeah, I was thinking today, like he's earned his place on the Mount Rushmore of horror with Wes Craven and John Carpenter and those guys. I mean,
yeah,
George Romero, he just definitely deserves a place in with those legends. So
yeah, I mean, even if it was just for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was so good and so influential that he could be up there on that alone, and not to mention all his other stuff that he did. So, and it's kind of like such a hit to lose him and George Romero in such a short time apart. It's the good thing is we have such classics to remember them by, which is good. So
yeah, and one thing, and we'll get to it when we go through Salem's Lot, is despite Texas Chainsaw Massacre's brutality, he really seemed to have a great sense of humor and fun in his movies. And you really see that in Salem's Lot, and you see it in The Funhouse. You see it in all his works. Has this, you could tell there's an undercurrent of this really, really hardcore horror fan just having a great time making movies. And it really came to light in this in our feature film tonight, which is Salem's Lot. This was a television miniseries, obviously, 1979. So I was 5 years old. So I did not see this one.
I was 7 and did see it, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So I did not actually see this one until many years later. So the impact on me was not quite as great as it probably was for Brian.
Oh, yeah.
But I still really, really enjoyed it. Obviously directed by Tobe Hooper, written by Paul Monash, based on the novel by Stephen King, of course. Starring David Soul, James Mason, Lance Kerwin, Bonnie Bedelia from, which we'll get into. I was trying to place her when I was watching this. Like, who is that? I know this lady. And I finally realized it's John McClane's wife from Die Hard.
Yeah.
I was like, there you go.
Well, she also played, Shirley Muldowney, the one, the female race car driver, too, in that Heart Like a Wheel movie. I remember her from that, too, so...
So, this was the, interestingly enough, was only the second film based on Stephen King's work. But then I got to thinking about it. He didn't have that many books out by that point.
Right.
1979, because Carrie was written in the early 70s. So, and it was the first miniseries based on his work.
Yeah, and I remember, because I remember when first seeing it, and I remember, I don't know why my mom let me watch this at 7 years old. I don't know. I mean, she didn't really... I guess if, she kind of had that take, if she was going to watch it and I wanted to watch it, she would let me, as long as, I guess she'd explain it to me. And it was funny because I still remember the commercials for it and seeing some things on it. I'm like, oh, that looks kind of cool. It's kind of scary, but I want to see it. And I remember watching it and was completely and utterly terrified through that movie. But I almost became like obsessed with it at some level. Like I knew it was frightening me, and I remember seeing when it broke into the second part, and I knew what was some creepy stuff that was coming in the second part because of the commercials. And I still remember I was still like frightened, but I knew, I'm like, I have to see it. It's like one of those things where it's like, I guess, this could be one of the reasons what got me into loving horror at some level, because it was it did everything it was supposed to. It engaged me and it got me excited, but also truly terrified me. And still to this day, when I rewatched it, I was watching this and it still is so creepy, and probably my still pick for the most frightening moment that I've ever seen on film, which is that first kid, Danny Glick, floating up to his brother's window.
Well, yeah, yes, anybody that saw this movie, that's the scene they remember. And I will say, after rewatching this, because I had not seen this in many, many years when I rewatched it for the podcast, I'm going to still go on record. 1979, this still has some of the most terrifying vampire sequences I've ever seen in a vampire movie.
It does. And it has such high quality for a television movie that you could have easily been a theatrical, which it did get released as a shortened version, I think overseas, right? As a theatrical film. But for this, just watching it, it's like, you see vampire movies nowadays, and it just does. And I dare you to find one that was as frightening as that one. I really don't see one. It was so super creepy.
I was trying to think. I mean, I guess you could argue some of the sequences in Fright Night, I think, would get there.
Maybe.
But then that movie also had this comedic undertone.
It was played for laughs. Yeah, a lot of
man,
scenes.
As far as just like really scary vampires, I don't think you can beat this one.
No, and it was and it was so like, and it wasn't anything like crazy that they did. It was just maybe like a look that they gave or a movement, and it was really not any complicated effects. And it was, and if you think about it, it's almost like a silly thing, like of them looking, going and hissing, and nowadays you see that you crack up, but for some reason, that's one of my biggest things. If you know me, a lot of times if someone like I drive Julie crazy with this all the time. If someone says something I don't agree with, I'll look at them and I'll just go and I'll do this hiss. It's like from Jack Tripper used to do that on Three's Company, kind of like that. Yeah. And yet this thing, they do that, and it is not comical to me at all. And like I always go back to the Once Bitten, remember, with Jim Carrey?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Where he turns around and he goes, and he turns, and it's still comical. This, to this day, still frightens me. And I was watching at home. It was during the day, but I was still alone, and I was still like creeped out. I mean, this still thing to this day creeps me out. I mean, and just some of and one of the most subtle ones that, I mean, it turns out to be more of a creepy moment, but like literally when Jeffrey Lewis, I forgot his name and his character's name, but when he's burying the older brother, and then he gets like kind of possessed into opening up the coffin, and he's just laying there with that dead stare at him, and you're not sure what's gonna happen, and that is super creepy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, this is to me, if you want pure horror, this has got to be one of the ones you put on your radar, and like it's by far to me probably still my pick for the movie that scared me the most.
Well, let's back up a little bit and kind of tell if anybody hasn't seen the movie.
Right. Sorry if I spoiled that part, but there's plenty. Believe me, there's plenty of moments.
You can't describe it and do it justice.
Yeah, but, you really can't.
So David Soul plays Ben Mears. He's a novelist who comes to the town of Salem's Lot, which was a shortened version of Jerusalem's Lot, and he ends up discovering this. What we find is to be a vampire named Barlow.
Right. But he's referred to as Mr. Barlow.
Mr. Barlow.
The whole time. So you think it's just this other old guy because, like, James Mason's character is kind of like, you think it's just his regular partner, like, that's not there yet, that come for their little antique store.
Yeah, so James Mason plays Richard Straker, who is basically this vampire's handler, I guess you would call it.
I guess.
His keeper.
That part I never quite understood exactly what. I assume that's all it is, right?
I think it's like essentially it's like his Renfield. Just not crazy.
Right. Because he didn't have any powers himself. He had no kind of. Yeah, okay.
He's basically there to make sure the coffins are delivered on time and the house is protected, and nobody's going to sneak up and stake him. He's kind of the overseer, the caretaker, if you will. And what's interesting about this movie, Brian, I was going to bring this up, is because I watched it, a straight 3 hours.
Yeah, no, that's what I did too. Yeah,
and
this time
it's interesting to me to watch it a straight 3 hour miniseries. You don't get those. It's a different flow than watching it week. It probably ran 3 consecutive nights or 3
I think it was 2.
Weeks.
I want to say 2.
Okay, maybe 2. Yeah, split an hour and a half. That makes sense. So it's kind of a different flow when you're watching it all at once. And to me, I was like, when we had gotten an hour in, and I was thinking, this movie moves rather slowly, but you have to remember it's in a miniseries format.
Right.
So I kind of wondered if you could cut this into a 2-hour theatrical film and make it a little tighter. But for the time, I could definitely see this would have been a riveting miniseries.
But I remember seeing the shortened version and not liking it as much. Like, I don't know what... I'm not going to pretend I remember exactly what they cut out. Like, I remember all the the super creepy scenes were there. But I want to say they cut out something that I significantly remembered, and it wasn't in there. I mean, and there's stuff they easily could have, cut out. But then that's a Stephen King trait of the things. If you notice, he's got characters in there that really have no bearing on the overall thing, but they're kind of featured in early on, like that couple, the truck driver and his wife. They really didn't need that whole little subplot other than to set up that guy running out and Fred Willard, whatever, running out and getting attacked.
Fred Willard, yeah.
Which is so weird that he was in
he's
that.
So weird because it's not a comedic role, really. I mean,
yeah.
It's maybe a little tiny tinge of comedic role, but it's weird seeing him play something straight because he's so well known for playing just completely absurd characters in these days.
Right, and he's always got the goofiness to him. And this he had no goofiness, and I'm like...
It's very strange.
Yeah, I'm like, why is he like that in this,
No, but Stephen King is all about character.
Right.
I mean, and he'll be the first to tell you that if you've read any of his books on writing. So, but in that respect, I agree. The longer format gave it way more time for you to become really attached to these characters, so that by the third act, which was phenomenal, I mean, just all hell breaking loose.
Yeah.
That you really are super invested in these characters, and it probably works to its advantage. So you're right. Maybe cutting it down to a 2-hour film would kind of take some of that away.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't remember exactly what. And I want to say I may still have it. I got to look. I mean, I know I was taking out duplicates of things I got on DVD and replaced them with on video on Blu-ray, but I may also have it on videotape. I think I at one point owned the shorter version, and I bought it thinking it was going to be the full miniseries, but then they released it, Salem's Lot, the full miniseries separately, and I replaced it. So I don't know if I still somewhere in a box still might have the original. If I do, I'm going to look for that and dig it out and maybe watch it and see if I can maybe piece, I'll just report back as a quick little follow-up, see if I can remember what it took out. But like David's soul character, Ben Mears, that develops over the, you get a lot of stuff with him in it. And to cut him short would kind of do it a disservice, I think. Because he's such a good character, and he's, and he's, he kind of takes it, he almost, at one point is blaming himself for what's happening, that he drew it back into the town, which is kind of interesting.
He's got that Tom Atkins vibe to him, too. I was watching this, and I was like, God knows, he's, so confident.
Right.
He's like a man's man, he
waltzes in, steals that guy's girl, Bonnie
Yeah,
Bedelia.
he's completely suave, total confidence. He's just a badass in his movie.
He actually was. I remember he was so much one of my favorite actors as a kid from when he was in that, because when I was a kid, I didn't, other than maybe knowing people from Star Wars and stuff like that at that point. I mean, well, who did I remember, So it's I remember he was one of the people that I remembered, and it's kind of funny because that movie, like I said, it really stuck with me and kind of frightened me. And I remember soon after, I didn't want to say it was either that year or maybe a year later, there was remember those cheesy variety specials that used to be on network television?
Yeah.
Someone's Thanksgiving Spectacular or something. Well, they had this one on, and he came on, and I remember, and I was like, this is going to sound so silly, but I remember he came on, and I still remember it to this day. He sang a song called Black Bean Soup, and it was this this old folky song.
Oh my God.
Right? And the funny thing about it is I was so happy to see him playing such a lighthearted tune that it made me feel better. Just seeing him kind of brought back the fear of the movie, and to see him do something like that made me feel better. I know that sounds so ridiculous, but it was I still remember it to this day. That, and the fact that I still remember the song he sang. I mean, that's
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, the other major character in this, besides Bonnie Bedelia, who plays his love interest, of course, the girl he steals away, but is Lance Kerwin, plays the great character of Mark Petrie. Is it pronounced Petrie?
I think he reminds me of a young Tim Wilson, actually, I gotta say.
Well, I was about to say this kid is me growing up, because I was all into when I saw him painting the models and stuff. I was like, that's what I did. That's exactly what I was doing. I was painting monster kits and building monster kits and watching movies, and I had the posters on the wall, the horror posters and everything. This kid was I just kept watching it going, oh my God, that's who I was.
And you guys have to understand, Tim and I have only known each other now less than 3 years. So for me to, but obviously we've gotten really close over the past since then, and so it's kind of funny that I could just peg young Tim just by, seeing that movie. I'm like, I bet you Tim really likes this guy. This reminds me of what Tim would be like as a kid. Just kind of like this, like totally into horror and making his models in his room and and he's smart enough to figure out not to let this guy in and to get across. I'm like, that'd be Tim. Tim would totally do that, Even if it was Kevin coming knocking at the door. But
did you notice this though? In the Funhouse, which I watched fairly recently, you had the kid in there also had like horror themed stuff all over his bedroom.
Oh, really?
Like yeah. So it almost seems like kind of like a Tobe Hooper kind of nod. I haven't
seen that in so long. I got to see that.
Yeah, I have to imagine he is that kid. And
you're right.
And he was probably putting that in there because that's two of his films that when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, it looks like the kid's bedroom in the Funhouse.
Now, was he like that in the book? I didn't read I had the book, and I kind of remember reading it years ago, but I don't know if I ever finished it because I was young when I got I got the book after I got the miniseries, and that's obviously way above of a book that I could probably handle at that age, So I don't know if I ever remembered even finishing it. I remember having it But so you don't remember either. So that's something we should probably revisit at some point.
Yeah, I read the book. Oh gosh, it's been at least. I probably read that book when I was in my teens. So it's been 25 years since I've read it, and I do know that the movie did take quite a few liberties with the book,
right?
As they all do with Stephen King adaptations. I think most notably, the one I read was the vampire itself, Barlow, was significantly changed, but King signed off on it.
Yeah, I heard he was really impressed still with the movie.
Yes, he was, and he signed off on the character changes because he understood that it would play better for television, which it obviously did because this movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
In a way, though, funny enough, it kind of reminded me of Phantasm, where you had, of course, in Phantasm, you had an older brother and a younger brother.
Yeah.
You're fighting evil, whereas this case, you've got like a much older guy and this young kid fighting evil. But it was still just a cool dynamic. I mean, if you look at Supernatural, where you got two brothers fighting evil, that dynamic kind of plays well together. It's almost like a buddy cop against the supernatural world,
right?
Type thing. It made me want to see I believe they would talked about making a Salem's Lot TV series.
They did. Well, they did.
Just never happened.
They had another TV version with Rob Lowe, and it's listed in IMDb as a TV series, even though they only had the 2 episodes. So I don't know if it was just the pilot and it never got picked up, so they just aired that. Yeah,
but I think they were going to originally make a TV series shortly after this came out, and it just never happened. But man, that was just, I think that'd be such a cool, guy, boy, it's the same dynamic as Doc and Marty from Back to the Future, where you got,
Yeah, that's actually a great analogy. You're right. Yeah, it's kind of like that. And if you think about it, they didn't even, team up so much in the film until the very, very end. So it's like it starts off with them, and then you in that prologue, and then you kind of see the whole story develop. And then, they kind of team up towards at the end, and you can kind of see how well they work together. And then in the epilogue, they kind of show you that they've been kind of going as a team now for some time, and they're kind of on the hunt. That's their life now. Is and they're going to be chased and hunted, and they're going to hunt back, and
Well, that's what was kind of cool about this movie while I was watching it. It was you're really watching parallel stories. You're watching Mark's story as the kid, and he's getting crap from his dad about being into horror and all this stuff. So you got that whole drama going on,
and he loses 2 best friends in there. I mean,
oh yeah, obviously he gets to some of the scariest scenes. His friend floating outside the window and that kind of stuff.
And for some reason, he's not as scary as because he says stuff. It's the younger brother that's silent that really, for some reason, really creeps me out. And he comes twice. Oh my God! And
they kept showing it over and over. I thought it was, in my mind, I was thinking it was just a one brief scene.
Yeah.
But no, they show it over and over.
He
They keep
floats
coming back to it.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
And actually, that was one of the scenes in the commercial that I saw that made me want to see it. They showed it just brief enough that I was like, oh, that's really creepy. I want to see what that is. And then when I saw it in the movie, I'm like, why did I watch this? This is terrifying. And I wrote in the notes, too, because this really was true. I was like, that scene, like, seriously frightened me so much. And then I remember my mom and I had stayed over one of her friends' houses somewhere, and the room they put me in literally had 2 big windows like that.
Oh
and I think I was up the whole night. And I was in there by myself, and I was like, I mean, granted, I was on I was on the second floor, but still, obviously, the vampire floats, and, you know, I knew it was like, as far as I know, all my friends were still alive and well, so I didn't expect a real visitor, but, you know, you see that as a kid, you know, I think it only may have been, like, a year or two after I had seen that, so I was still, what was I, 9, so, you know, I'm still a little, easily could be traumatized at that point, so.
Yeah, but, what I was saying was, like, so you got Mark's story, you've got Ben's story, and then you kind of got Straker's story, because you know, he's moving into town. And
even at some level, you kind of get that other guy's, Jason's story. You know, his old teacher kind of gets roped into it.
Yeah, so you got all these, like, parallel character arcs going on, and part of your mind is going, how does this all come together? And it's really captivating, you know, in terms of, that's why the 3 hours just flew by.
Yeah, right. Movie. Like you said, even if it flows slow, it's not boring.
No,
it's never boring.
I didn't want to say I didn't want to imply that it was boring, because it's not. It's just a very, maybe a deliberate would be a better word. It's a very deliberate pacing, and it really takes its time telling the story of each of these characters and weaving them together until the payoff at the end. It's brilliant, man. I'm actually disappointed I had not watched this one more often or sooner, because I really, really enjoyed watching this again for the podcast, and it's probably one I'll definitely revisit a lot more often going forward, because in my mind, it's one of the best vampire movies ever made.
Oh, I mean, I think it's probably my favorite. I think I put it up there, my favorite, just because of the impact it had on me. I mean,
and I'm not one, like, to me, vampires aren't scary.
Yeah,
really. Like, but this movie is scary.
Yeah, this one is, like, true frightening, and I don't know if it's, you know, what, like I said, it's nothing that they don't do much that's not in any, that they don't do in any other films. I don't know what it is, though, what they do, if it's just the way they do it in this, it's the subtleness of it, but I don't know, whatever, it's just like, there's so many scenes to this day, like, and I haven't seen this in a while. I would say a good, like, maybe like 5 years since I've seen this, if not more. And yet I still remember it as clear as day. As I was watching it, like, I knew exactly when things were coming. I knew exactly what the scene was going to be like. You know, so it's like, it's just, each scene was the horror scenes in this were so impactful and so, like, memorable to me that it's like, they obviously, whatever they did is like, you know, like other, like, I mean, other movies try and replicate it, and they just, I don't know why they can't hit it the same way this one did.
Well, I think it comes back to Tobe Hooper again, because this movie has this, it's never played for laughs. It's serious, but there's this undercurrent of fun to it. And I don't know quite how to explain it other than it's the same kind of fun you get from going through a haunted house at a carnival or something. It's a fun that is born out of being scared.
Yeah, and it, you know, sometimes when people try and do that, you can have two effects. You can have one, have it be just cheesy and laughable to the point of where it just, you're like, nice try. Or you get the magic and it hits like this one did. And this one just was like nearly perfection when it comes to finding a way to scare the hell out of you.
Honestly, I am shocked this came out on TV in 1979.
Yeah.
Because it's not that because there's nothing graphic in it or anything. So I can understand that part.
Yeah.
But just in terms of like scared, like creepiness, it was pretty intense.
Yeah. And it's involving kids too. I mean, it's kids.
Kids were dying. I mean, back in those days, it didn't have to be like, profanity or gore. Like they could just censor it just for being too scary or whatever. You know?
Right.
And so I'm totally shocked that this actually made it on the air.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I had not, I mean, I was only 7, and it's not like I had an expansive viewing history at that point of horror villains, but I know at the time I had not seen anything remotely like that. And remember, that was right before all the ones that really I started watching, like Halloween. I think and Friday the 13th would come out the year later. So like all those ones that I started really getting into and watching around then were coming out. So, but at that point, that's the one I remember that like by far was the first thing to truly terrify me, and still does to this day, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed or not, but it had a really cool score as well. Music was by Harry Suckman.
Yeah, we're not one to make names.
Regular names.
Yeah.
But anyway, great little score on that one. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was,
quite a bit.
and yeah, I mean, it was like, it's funny. It was like, it wasn't overpowering by any means, but it was the perfect complement to it, which is what a good score should be.
Right. Yep. One of the things that I meant to mention about Stephen King is he obviously has some great creativity in terms of like his Dark Tower series and all that stuff is just brilliant. But he's not above taking some normal stereotypical archetype monster and just putting his own spin on it, which is what Salem's Lot is. I mean, I guess I should probably do a vampire novel. Silver Bullet, I guess I should do a werewolf novel. Of course, the book was called Cycle of the Werewolf, but, or, The Shining, I better do my haunted house novel.
Right.
So, he was kind of going through
Misery,
that.
I'll do a psychological killer kind of crazy person.
Yeah, he's not above, taking those familiar archetypes and just putting a spin on it. So, like Brian was saying, you're not going to see anything new here. This is basically the same old vampire story you've seen a dozen times in every vampire movie. But what makes it great is the characters and the great direction by Tobe Hooper. So,
yeah, and I want to say I think I may be a little, but I may have even made my own little. And this being a growing up a young Jewish boy, I think I made a cross after seeing this movie. I want to say I made a cross out of popsicle sticks like David Soul did. Just because.
Oh my gosh. Just in case.
Yeah, just in case, like he did. And that was so smart. Like, he took the little, like, pops, I guess the tongue depressors was what it was. It was in a hospital. So he made the little cross out of it. I think I might have done that myself and kept it after seeing that movie.
Well, obviously we're not going to go scene by scene through a 3-hour movie.
No.
Just definitely, you can pick up this Blu-ray so cheap.
I think it's $9.99.
Yeah, you can get it for under $10. So grab it, and this would be a great one to break out this Halloween.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a while, I guarantee you this is going to become one of your favorite vampire movies of all time.
Right.
That's the Tim from Civil Gore guarantee.
Yes.
You're getting it. So,
if it was out this week, it'd be our pick of the week guaranteed.
Oh yeah, definitely. No question. So, definitely go check it out. And we have a good beer pairing theme for this month. Tell us about that, Brian.
Yeah. So, as you know, we're kind of, we kicked off our, as I like to call, our Steve-tember, which is, our September month of Stephen King. So I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of make every beer pairing from a brewery in Maine. And if you don't know, Maine is Maine of Vermont, pretty much. But Maine's, right now we're talking about, is a brewer's paradise. They are some of the best breweries out there, including one of my favorites, the Maine Brewing Company. But and I did a brewery tour there. Julie and I, one time we spent a weekend there. We went around. So it just happens, it's perfect that Stephen King came from Maine. So we figured that would be, it makes it maybe a little more challenging for me to kind of come up with a pairing, but it'll also kind of be fun and tie it in. So this one is from a brewery. Actually, before I reveal it, it's funny, I searched it. There was a Salems Lot beer. It had nothing to do with the movie. I mean, it may have been a play on the title only, but there's a brewery, Southern Peak, which I think it might be in Carolina, Tim. I want to say. I don't know. I thought I saw it say is Apex in North Carolina?
Yeah, that's North
okay,
Carolina.
Yeah, it was from there. They're located there. And I guess down the street from the brewery there was a pub called Salem Street Pub. And so they did a one-time collaboration. They called it Salem's Lot. But
that's cool.
But it was a couple years ago, and since it's not existent anymore and it was a one-timer, I didn't think that would be fair. And then plus it didn't meet our theme. Anyway, So, like I said, this is the pick I have is from a brewery which I visited. It was called Rising Tide, and it's called Daymark. And it's an American pale ale, and I figured it was kind of funny because Daymark includes Mark in it, which was, of course, the name of our hero, or one of our heroes, our young Mark Petrie. And figure the day is kind of a funny play on it because he, obviously the vampires can't come out during the day, and that's when he went to go kill them, was during the day. So, Daymark. And I've had that beer, actually. It's pretty solid, too. So, That's our beer pairing of the month. Or week, sorry.
And before we get to our trivia question this week, of course, we have to answer last week's trivia question, which, of course, was which actor or actress had a role in 4 consecutive Halloween movies? This was a tricky one.
Yes. Should I give the answer, Tim, or should I make him wait?
Yeah.
One more week.
No, give him the answer. Give him the answer.
Okay. The answer is, it's kind of funny because you may be scratching your head when I say this, but it's none other than Jamie Lee Curtis. She was in Halloween 1 and 2, of course. She had a voice cameo in Halloween 3. She was the voice of the PA person that kind of announced the curfew in whatever that town is Silver Shamrock was in. I forgot right now what the name of the town was. And in Halloween 4, there was a picture that young Jamie Lloyd carried of her deceased mom in a picture. So she was in picture form.
Yeah, well, I guess I should have restated the trivia question. Appeared.
Yes.
And for not
right.
Had a role.
Yeah, had a role.
I think we originally said appeared.
Yeah, I said in any way, shape, or form. So technically, she appeared in 3 different ways. She appeared as an actress, a voice, and a picture.
That was definitely a tricky one.
Yeah, that was a good one to because she's not credited in part 4. I don't think at all. Like I looked I think I double checked on IMDb, and I don't think she's listed there even in the credits as seeing her picture. So I thought that was a lot of people probably were like, "Oh, it's got to be Loomis because he was in 1 through 6," but no, he was not in 3.
Yep. Now this trivia question, I'm gonna reword it a little bit, Brian.
Okay, yeah. I didn't really word it great. So I'll let you. I'll let you reword this.
Okay, so the trivia question this week is: Salem's Lot was released in Spain as a sequel to another film. What was the name of the release in Spain, and what was it supposedly a sequel to? And the hint is that it was released as a sequel to a film it has nothing to do with.
Yeah.
So
this one might be tricky if you're really trying to figure this one out. But I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, it is really, and it kind of makes sense in a way.
Yeah, which Tim, we can give you another hint. You just listen to this episode pretty carefully. Yeah. From the beginning to the end, and you may catch a hint.
You may catch a hint. But anyway. Yeah, so great movie, great episode. Next week we'll be back with another Stephen King film, and I don't think it's any surprise which one that's going to be.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned it early too.
Yeah, we're both going to go see it this weekend or earlier in Brian's case. So we'll be covering the remake of It, a very special episode, a very timely episode.
Yeah, and this is something we've never done yet. I don't think we've ever reviewed a theatrical film right after it's come out as our main focus as the episode. So obviously this will be a little bit of a challenge because we're not going to want to spoil it, especially with it being only a week since its release when the episode drops. So so we're gonna so we'll have to be really careful on the way we do it. We'll try and do it as spoiler free as possible. I mean, obviously most people know the story, so I mean it's not going to be such a surprise. But for those who don't, we'll respect that and try and really do a spoiler free review.
Yeah, this will just be kind of think of it as an extended first chop of our impressions of the movie,
right?
At least for the movie portion of the episode, and we'll have our normal first chop and discmemberment as well. Guys,
we'll have a second chop.
Yeah, second chop. Make sure you leave us an iTunes review. That's how we get noticed, and it also enters you into a contest to win Paul Blart 2.
Yes,
and a cool horror movie. But you will get Paul Blart too.
It's so funny because people probably think at this point we're joking, and when they get like the package that's a little thicker than one DVD, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, really? They really sent Paul Blart too?"
And I've got some, like I've mentioned before, I've got some really cool goodies to include in that prize pack.
True.
So get your review in so that you can be entered. It's real easy to do. You just have to go through iTunes, jump through a lot of hoops, write a review, blah, 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 blah. Take all of this time to do that. But the payoff is so worth it.
Right. And you never know what else could be added by that point. By the time we actually do this contest,
oh God, yeah,
you never know what could be in there, what other kind of freebies we may get.
We might box Brian up and send them to you.
Yeah, that would be the what they call a booby prize, I think, right? Yeah, that'd be I think anyone would want that.
That's like let's make a deal where it's like the a month's supply of goat feed or whatever. Like they raise curtain number 1 and it's just the bum prize.
And how bad is that I'm like the disappointment in a prize pack that contains Pull Blart too? You know? Yet I'm the disappointment in it. That shows how low on the totem pole I must be, right?
No respect, I tell you.
But maybe we'll have to sweeten it up with a personalized audio recording from Tim in his dulcet tones.
Yeah, there you go. It'll be me singing the Marvelous Mervo song.
Oh yeah, and don't think we've dropped that. We have a special plan we're working on for that.
Yeah, but anyway, so guys, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Gmail. You can find us. We're out there. Yes. You don't need us to tell you. We got links in the show notes, so if you need to pass it along to your friends. So we'll be back next week with episode 28. We'll see you then.
And remember, if you're in a bedroom with 2 giant glass windows that can open up, keep them locked.
Scratch, scratch, scratch.
Let me in.